Okay, this is some suggestions about how you could look at Wilde Reiter, the Wild Rider, the eighth piece from Robert Schumann's album for the young. I'll just start with a bit of background, but I'll put chapter headings on the upload so that you can skip this and get straight into learning the music if you like. So Robert and Clara Schumann had 8 children, 7 of whom survived to adulthood. Following Robert's unfortunate premature decline into mental illness and his subsequent death, Clara assumed full responsibility for their upbringing, while simultaneously sustaining her career as one of the most esteemed concert pianists of her era. But that's another story. Their eldest daughter Marie was a particular focus of Robert's attention, especially regarding her piano education. At the time, no major composer had composed pedagogical works specifically for children, and Robert grew increasingly frustrated with the pieces Marie had to learn. They were so awful. Why couldn't someone write proper pieces for children, he lamented. In response to this perceived deficiency, Schumann resolved to create his own collection of educational, yet artistically rich piano pieces. This effort culminated in the Klavieralbum für die Jugend, Album for the Young, a compilation designed to infuse didactic music with warmth and reality. We will turn our attention to the 8th piece in the collection, the Wilde Reiter, the Wild Horseman. Despite the absence of a tempo marking in the score, we can reasonably infer from the title that Schumann did not intend for this to be formed at a slow pace. The piece serves as an excellent pedagogical tool for developing the ability to create the impression of speed in music without the physical sensation of hurried or uncontrolled playing. One of its key educational benefits lies in teaching young pianists how to conceptualize and project velocity while maintaining a sense of control and composure. Harmonically, the composition is relatively straightforward, utilizing only 5 or 6 distinct harmonies. This limited palette allows even developing musicians to refine their ability to perceive and process multiple notes simultaneously. By engaging with the harmonic structure in this way, students can cultivate a deeper understanding of how to shape musical phrases without compromising technical security. Structurally, Wilde Reiter follows a ternary, that's ABA, form. I'll begin by examining the outer sections of the piece, after which the same analytical approach can be applied to the contrasting middle section. At first glance, the rhythmical foundation appears relatively simple. The piece is in 6/8 time, characterized by consistent quaver movement. With a little quaver rest at the phrase breaks. Given this rhythmic simplicity, the logical first step in our analysis is to examine the harmonic framework. I strongly advocate for the study of harmony as a fundamental component of musical development. Understanding harmony not only enhances efficiency in learning new repertoire, but also deepens overall musical comprehension. This process need not be confined to dry theoretical exercises. Significant progress can be made by exploring harmony through familiar musical contexts such as simple pop songs. I need to upload some video to cover all of this, and I'm assuming that many people watching this will be familiar with the harmonic analysis, so again, I can skip ahead to the next chapter. The outer sections are in A minor, which could be seen as the simplest minor key. It's relative to C major, and the key signature contains no black notes, no sharps or flats. We're going to be talking about harmony now, so it's likely that we'll be talking more about the harmonic minor, which has raised sevenths. In the majority of music, the most common chords are 1, 4, and 5, and that's certainly the case with the outer sections of this piece, which pretty much uses only those 3 chords. So, chord 1 is a chord based on the first degree of the scale, and indeed named after it. So, if we place a counter on chord 1 and then build a chord on top of it, we have chord 1, which is A minor in this case. It's also good to be familiar with all the inversions of that chord. So if I move the A to the top so that we have a C at the bottom, we have A minor in first inversion. And if then rearrange it again so the E is at the bottom, we have A minor in second inversion. Chord 4 is D minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, D, the fourth note of an A minor scale. We'll just build a chord on top of that. D minor, arrange it so the F is at the bottom, D minor in first inversion, and arrange it so the A is at the bottom, D minor in second inversion. And lastly, chord 5. E is the fifth note of the scale, so it'll be E major. And good to know the inversions of that as well. So there are the three chords with all their possible inversions that are going to be used in this section. I would take a moment to just maybe improvise in the scale, improvise a piece using those chords, and just get as familiar with them as possible before proceeding to the actual piece, which we will do now. So my first step is just going to be have a look through and analyse the notes in terms of which of those harmonies that they're going to fit into. As it seems in the right hand, the first 9 notes are all A's, C's and E's. So that's an A minor harmony, small a for A minor. And left hand, A and C, A, C, E, A, C, E. So similarly, everything is A minor there. Something different happens, and then towards the end of that bar, we have an A minor chord in the left hand and the notes E, C, A in the right. I'm just going to go through and do all the A minors first. Halfway through the third bar, we have this chord, A minor second inversion, with a C in the melody. And then in the final bar, beginning with A, C's and E's, actually continuing to the next beat as well. And then moving on here, we have a D minor chord in the left hand with an F, which fits perfectly well with that chord in the right. And that is it for D minors. So the next new harmony is here, E, G sharp and B in the left hand, B and G sharp in the right. So E major there on the end of that bar, same notes in the left hand, and then let's form a full E major chord descending in the right, and then ending with again same E major chord in the left and the fifth of that chord, a B in the right hand. So sort of here's one I prepared earlier, Spirit, a slightly neater version where I've colour coded all the harmonies in keeping with the colours that we've just been using. So once this harmonic framework has been identified, the next stage involves grouping these notes into logical, musical and pianistic patterns. Incidentally, I'm going to make this study score available in the description. I think it's useful if you're going to study it in this way to have this reminder of how to work through it. So these groupings will provide insight into the most effective ways to approach the passage technically and interpretatively. So looking at the score, I've rewritten it so that we can see the harmonies as we just described them. A straightforward A minor, split between the right and the left hand, 2 notes each. Then 3 notes in each hand. Thumbs overlap when you're playing them together, but that won't be a problem when you come to play it as Schumann wrote. So you've got that sort of second inversion position in the right hand and the root in the left. The third thing is root positions in both hands, followed by a repetition of the third, the C, in the right hand. Next, D minor in its second inversion position in the left hand, and the third of that D minor chord, the F in the right. Then back to two root positions. E major chord 5, the full 3-note chord in the left hand, and the top 2 notes in the right. A minor, second inversion in the left hand, the third of the chord in the right. E major, 3-note root positions in both hands. And then we have the same grouping that we started the phrase with, a full A minor chord split between 2 hands. And then just the lower 2 notes in the left hand and the third in the right. And lastly, chord 5, full E major in the left hand, the fifth of the chord in the right. So put that together. And you can already start to hear the skeleton of the piece as Schumann intended it. So a quick word about the second phrase, which is basically exactly the same as the first. Except the final 2 chords, which is an open-voiced E major chord, that is to say the G sharp is sort of removed from the middle and sounded above, and then finishing with that A minor chord missing the E. So I'd advise you spend a little bit of time at that point. That's almost enough for an entire lesson really, and then go away and I'll try and get to know it to the point that you could play that from memory, certainly visualize those chords very clearly away from the piano, and then play them on the actual instrument. So having established these groupings, we turn our attention to the movement within each harmonic block. So it's essential to cultivate a sense of cohesion between the notes, ensuring that no feeling of rushing occurs. The notes should be perceived as part of a single harmonic entity, akin to playing a chord, whilst recognizing that they are momentarily separated within a texture. So I've rewritten the previous line with sometimes grace notes or sometimes up or down arpeggio signs to indicate how the notes are separated out. So where we now have the E is slightly ahead of the rest of the texture. In the second grouping, the E and the A of the right hand come slightly before the rest. Same thing, the 2 notes before and then 1 note after. In the D minor chord, that's exactly how we perceived it already. And then the next 2 A minor chords, we're thinking of the right hand playing those notes arpeggiated in a downward direction. Similarly with the E chord, the left hand is all together. The right hand 2 notes are arpeggiated downwards. Then the A minor chord in the left hand and with the third is all as was. And then a familiar story here, the left hand has fixed E major chord and the right hand arpeggiates it downwards. Same thing there, the right hand top 2 notes are arpeggiated downwards, and then the rest of the lines as written. And just have a quick look at the second phrase, nothing's really affected there because the final 2 chords, the only thing that differed from the first phrase, are all sounded together anyway. So again, I would take a bit of time away from the instrument now to study the score and see if I can memorize those patterns visually. At this point we should be able to get to something like this. So the final step is to execute these notes with the same sense of harmonic unity, but now articulated precisely according to Schumann's rhythmic notation. So the crucial thing is to keep that sense of being as still as you were when conceiving them as chords or as slightly arpeggiated chords, and avoid this sense of sort of running between the notes. So that's why I think this is a brilliant piece for all pianists of any level to learn. These things are applied to, for instance, learning Chopin studies further down the line. So if you can get used to this way of thinking, it's a great sort of technical thing to have in your armory. I will post a video of going through the middle section, but that's essentially exactly the same principle, just with slightly different harmonies. Okay, hope this has been helpful.